everybody, welcome back. We're going through the book Working with the Law. We are on chapter 5, a law of receiving. And when I went through this chapter, I mean, this is an excellent chapter, and this is going to bring up a lot of deep-rooted beliefs, because when we talk about law of receiving, we're really talking about giving and receiving. And you know, the big thing about giving, that kind of ruffles the feathers with a lot of people. I mean, that brings up a lot of deep-rooted beliefs on, you know, giving money, and also, you know, receiving on the opposite side too. But so this is an excellent chapter on one of the laws of the universe. So lo and behold, let's jump into this. We're excited about this chapter. So again, this is Working with the Law, chapter 5, a law of receiving, and let's get rocking and rolling. Now, the law of receiving, we start right off with a quote, and Raymond Holliwell always starts off with a quote: "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, running over." And this is from the Bible, Luke chapter 6, verse 34. One more time: "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, running over." And I'm not going to go over this verse quite yet, because Raymond Holliwell, when he actually goes through this chapter, he really dissects this verse. He really dissects the law of receiving and the law of giving, and this is going to be an excellent chapter for you guys. Understanding reduces the greatest to simplicity. The lack of it causes the least to take on the magnitude of its complexity. In order to make Christianity practical, we must understand Christianity and obey the law of which it is founded. The teaching of Christ shows the way back from wrong results of selfish living to the love, intelligence, and the power of God. By man's words, deeds, and actions, he reveals whether he has as yet found the way. God exists in man as man's highest concept of perfection and comes forth through man's faith and works as redeeming love, intelligence, and power. Now, in the beginning of this book, I haven't brought it up in this chapter yet because we just started. Remember, what I love about old school prosperity teachers is they always bring in religion. They always bring in different faiths. They always bring in the Bible, Christianity, because they really teach it, and they really dissect these verses very differently than if you were brought up in church. If you went to church, or you were brought up in church as a kid, they really dissect these verses differently than how we've been taught. He who seeks a greater life with getting as an objective does not seek life in trueness of spirit. Say this one more time. He who seeks a greater life with getting, and what he means by that is the law of receiving. It's also on the line. Remember, it's a universal law, meaning if you receive, there has to be a give. You know what I mean? You have to be giving to receive. It's on the same plane here. Okay, same way with any universal law, meaning like if there's a hot, there has to be a cold. If you receive, you have to give. So it's on the same plane here. So what he's saying is, if you're just so focused on getting, and you're not giving, that's not the true spirit of God. That's not the true spirit of the universe. To the extent and so long as any material object remains between the mind of the seeker and the law of God, the two are held apart and do not become one. In the same degree that man holds to personal opinion and desire, he is limited in knowing and experiencing the limitless authority and the power endowed by him by his Creator. And I'm just going to make sure I have it on just in case I want to highlight something. In the state of limited understanding, we reason that we must get before we can give. Listen to this. In a state of limited understanding, we reason that we must get before we can give. And this is where I love this chapter, because it really deals with manifesting in general, because we could twist this several ways. As most people live their life, maybe this is how they've been taught, this is what they heard growing up, meaning that I gotta get before I give. You know, before I start giving to charities or helping people, well, I need high-paying salaries. I need to be a millionaire first before I start giving and helping. but it's actually the opposite. So we're always thinking the opposite. People think that way. I have to get it first before I give. I got to get it first before I help you. Same way with manifesting. I got to see it first with my own eyes before I believe it. Makes sense? Remember, in manifesting, we're working from the inside out, not from the outside in. So this is we've been trained to look on the outside, look on our 3D world. I got to see it first before I'm going to believe it. But it's about belief first, and then it materializes into our 3D world. So we can spin this several ways, but here in this chapter, he's only talking about giving and receiving, the law of receiving. So we'll read it one more time for you. We reason that we must get before we can give. And then we turn and walk in the same mental rut as before by reasoning that we must give before we can get. But in our lack of understanding, we continue to leave the getting idea foremost in our thought, and we shut out the spirit of giving. Giving, in which is the first and fundamental law of life, is the first law of all creation. This is so important. Giving, which is the first and fundamental law of life, is the first law of all creation. The attitude of getting is the law of life in a congested state or in repressed action. As long as getting dominates a mind, that mind is in a paralyzed condition, being limited in its action in accordance with a fundamental law of creation. And I know Holliwell in this chapter, he's going to explain this. He's going to dive really deep into this. But kind of a takeaway from this is that what comes to my mind is when I read this, as long as getting dominates our mind, that mind is paralyzed in that condition. As long as my mind is so dominated, my thoughts are so dominated. What can I get out of it? What can I get out of it? Getting. I don't have to give. And giving isn't just about money here, and Holliwell will explain this. It's giving our time, it's helping, and it's other ways how we give. It's giving in our thought processes. But, if all we're so focused on is getting, what can I get out of it? It's really a very low vibration. And he says, that mind is so paralyzed in condition, being limited in its action in accordance with the fundamental law of creation. The radio, now this is an example, by the way, the radio has aided greatly in explaining the process of the law of giving and receiving, or prayer and blessing. The principles involved are very similar. In fact, they are the same, except that one is mechanical and the other is mental. When the operator projects a program, he stirs up a vibration in the air that goes forth to accomplish what it will. He's talking about the radio waves, and how we, because this is written in 1967 again. So how the vibration of the air and a voice can be carried on, through telephone and through the radio and stuff like that. And I can't get into all of it because I just don't know all the mechanical and all the mechanical parts that go along with that, but you know what I'm talking about. When the operator projects a program, he stirs up a vibration in the air that goes forth to accomplish what it will. He has nothing more to do with it after it has been projected. The ether, now ether is air, the ether or the air carries the vibrations to any station that is capable of receiving and producing it. So he's basically comparing our mind, our mental mind, our thoughts to the radio station, and radio waves, how it carries our voice, basically all over the world. Same way with a telephone. And now we don't even have telephones, now we have cell phones and cell towers and all that jazz. When we pray, we in turn stir up a vibration with our desires. This also is received by a force determined according to the power, the purpose, and the sincerity of our prayer. Often when we pray, we think that all that is necessary is to keep on praying, with the result that we never adjust ourselves to become receptive to receive our answers. and so complain when we do not get them properly. So now he's really twisting it. He's really going into the law of receiving here. So start paying attention. So basically he's saying we're praying, okay? You're saying prayers, you're saying prayers out loud underneath your breath. You set desires, you set an intention, you set wants, maybe your dream car, your dream vacation, the amount of money you want, but yet you're not able to receive it. So that receptor is faulty. Or in this chapter, the law of receiving is faulty. A dreamer or a wisher is one who is continually praying, sending out his ideas, his desires, and is so busy dreaming that he gets all his enjoyment out of his dreams. He doesn't know or realize that to release his dream and allow it to go forth to accomplish what it will in time return to him for good. After you form a definite, clear outline of your desire, then release your thought Godward, let it go, like throwing a ball out with no string or rubber attached to bring it back to you. I love this. This is why I have it highlighted in green, but it's so powerful because he's really describing the concept of letting it go. And we haven't dived that much. Now, I have a lot of videos on letting it go, but that's really the biggest thing. What we can do when we want something, when we desire something, when we set an intention, and we set this intention, and even if we follow Never Goddard, when we set this intention and we go inside our imagination and we create this imaginal scene of what we want, what our life is like with that want. Maybe it's a dream car, a dream house, the amount of money, and you're a millionaire, and then we drift off to sleep. But what ends up happening is in our 3D world, in present moment, we tend to try to control the how. Or we think we're not controlling the how, but when we do this night after night, every single day, what happens is we start growing an attachment to it. And we start growing an attachment to it, and we start looking for the how. We know it, noticing it's not there, but we're not letting it go. And I love how he says this, as far as like being able to let it go. And he uses this analogy or this metaphor in letting go. After you form a definite, clear outline of your desire, then release that thought Godward. Let it go. Like throwing a ball with no string or rubber attached back to you. It's almost imagine like you're standing in a big field. Right now I'm in Ohio, so if I go outside right now, there's a lot of field because my brother-in-law is a farmer, and it's generational farming. He's been doing it since he was a tiny little kid, as old as he can remember. Then his dad was the same way, his grandpa was the same way. So it's a generational farm. So when I go outside, there's a lot of land, a lot of farmland. So imagine just taking that baseball, taking a tennis ball, and you pretend that this is your want, this is your attention, this is your dream car, this is your dream house. And the way to let it go is just you just lean back and you just throw the ball as hard as you can, and you just let it go. And you just let it go, let God, let the universe. Okay, stop controlling the how. Okay, because it will come to you, but it will come to you usually at an angle that you're not really expecting. And he will bring this up, and I'll bring it up right now just because it's on the top of my mind. I might forget later. You never know. But we've all have manifested little tiny things in our life. Maybe we manifested, a book. We manifested, a cup of coffee. We manifested like silly stuff, okay? Or maybe we've done manifesting techniques. Maybe we've done Never Goddard techniques, the ladder technique, and you manifested climbing the ladder in your 3D world. Maybe we've done other manifesting techniques that are just little silly techniques just to prove to you that manifesting is real. Imagination does create reality. But in my own experience, when I've had these things really work for me, it's always when I just truly let it go and truly forget about it. Just totally forget about it. It really just left my mind. And the only time I remember it again is when it actually came into my life. You know what I mean? So there's a great power in just letting it go, letting it be, and not giving it, 1 ounce, 1% of thought. Man's extremity is God's opportunity is true. For when man reaches his limit, he hopelessly stops his efforts. When he relaxes from his strain, the law has a chance to reply to his desires. Now he's wording this kind of weird because remember, this is more old school writing a little bit, but he's talking about tensing. You know, when you don't let go, when you grow this attachment to things, you're really trying to force it to happen. So this is what he's talking about. You're trying to force things to happen. You're looking for the how. You're looking for it. So you haven't let it go. So this is why he's saying, when he relaxes from his strain, the law has a chance to reply to his desires. Now, as you relax and you get in the relaxed state, you let it go, you forget about it. That's when the law comes to work for you. That's when God comes to work for you. Remember here, if you skip forward and this is the only video you're watching, remember, law means God. No, God means law. Okay, then also God and law also can mean the subconscious mind. You know, if you study a lot of Joseph Murphy, the power of the subconscious mind. So I'll read that one more time, then we'll move on. When he relaxes from his strain, the law has a chance to reply to his desires, and that things begin to change for him. Have you not seen this work in trivial things? I just brought this up in my example, such as books or clothing or invitations or a desire to see a certain friend. Possibly at some time you sent out a thought or a desire and then you forgot completely about it. See, this is what we do. In simple things, we totally forget about it. We're not attached to it. It just totally leaves our mind. The next thing you knew, you had that book presented to you. You received that invitation, or you were walking down the street and bumped right into that friend you so desired to meet. And we've all done this. Have you ever, thought about you haven't talked to your best friend for a while? Maybe it's a best friend from college. You haven't talked to him for a couple years. All of a sudden you wake up one day, you start thinking about him, then you forget about it, and next thing you know, either he calls you or he sends out a text message. You know, we've all kind of done this in simple things. Yet, somehow when it comes to more important things, the things you really want, the things you really desire, the more important things is that $1 million salary, that dream car, that dream house, those big time charities you want to belong to. Yet somehow when it comes to the more important things, to larger things, we fail to release our desires and prayers as readily, and anxiety and tension holds everything fast. So it's hard for you to let go of it. It's hard for you to let go of, I want to be a millionaire. It's hard for you to let go of, I want my dream house. I want my dream car. It's hard for you to let go of that. And that tension and anxiety, you're kind of holding on to it. Nothing worthwhile is accomplished. The mind is like a sponge. We squeeze it hard with our anxious thoughts, but not until we release the pressure and allow the sponge to take its normal shape can it become absorbent and receptive again. Once we have expressed our needs through prayer or otherwise, some believe that is all we must do. On the contrary, we are working with a law that is definite and active, and this is only the beginning of our work. The principle of life upon which this law is based is clearly written. It reads, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over." Giving always precedes and predetermines the reception. Whether you are giving your thought, your word, your service, or your deed. Now, remember here, he's not just talking about money, okay? He's talking about no matter what you're giving your thoughts, you're giving your words, you're giving your service, or you're giving your deed. Or it can be you're giving money, but it's not just about money here. And I'll read it one more time. "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over." That's the verse. Giving always precedes and predetermines the reception. So what he's talking about here, basically what he's talking about, the more you give, the more you receive. The less you give, the less you receive. That's what he's pretty much saying here. Giving always precedes and predetermines the reception, whether you are giving your thought, your word, your service, or your deed. Some folks may consider this law as a two-way law. Now remember, every law of the universe is two-way, and he'll explain this. You have a hot, you have to have a cold. You have a positive, you have to have a negative side. That is, half the time you should be busy giving, and the other half the time you should be receiving. It is like the proposition of heat and cold. There are two sides to the same law. Remember, every law of the universe, there's two sides to it, just like I just said. If you have a hot, you have to have a cold. If you have a positive thoughts, well, there has to be negative thoughts. Okay, so if you want to receive more, well, there has to be a giving side to it. Giving, receiving. So there's an opposite to every single law of the universe. That is, if we concentrate upon cold and hope and pray to get heat, we are likely to freeze to death. What we must do is to give all our thought and effort toward building a fire or seeking that which we create heat to warm us. If we concentrate upon receiving, not giving any thought or idea or desire to build upon, we in a like manner may perish. The law says, and I'm right down here, the law says it is more blessed to give than to receive. This is the law of the universe. And this is actually taken out of the Bible as well in the New Testament. The law says it is more blessed to give than to receive. So you're more blessed by God, you're more blessed by the universe to give than to actually receive. And as you freely give, you freely receive. Unless we are free to extend or give out our desire or our good, the law will not have any pattern to work with. I'll read that one more time because I kind of stumbled over my words a little bit. The law says it is more blessed to give than to receive. And as you freely give, you freely receive. Unless we are free to extend or give out our desire, our good, the law will not have any pattern to work with. It cannot proceed to supply any need without a pattern. Many try to work the law backwards, and for that reason get little or no results. They say to themselves, well, after I get, then I will give. If you wish any good thing, you must first give some good to build upon. So what he's saying here is most of us live backwards, and most of them, we've been taught this way, even we've learned it somehow, is that, well, and this is what he said, well, I'll give after I get. And this is how people live their lives, and lives their lives around many things. Same way I said in the beginning of this chapter, even with manifesting, well, when I see it, then I'll believe it. Okay, I'll believe in this whole manifesting thing is when I actually get what I want. You know what I mean? It's always waiting to see, it's always waiting to get until I believe it, or get until I receive it. Or I want to get before I give. And don't worry, I'm not sharing too much because I know how this chapter is going to unfold. So he really kind of starts diving into, some stuff that we really struggle with when giving. And this is an example here. A young man gives his girlfriend a gift, a paste diamond. Now, a paste diamond means it's fake. It's like one of those like cubic zirconian, diamonds. Cubic zirconian is like just a fake rock. They can make it and shine it where it looks really real, unless you really know what to look for when you look into like a diamond grader. A paste diamond is a fake diamond. Later, when he got into financial difficulties, his girlfriend, he's talking about his girlfriend here. His girlfriend, most anxious to help him to tide over, wrote a kindly note and wished him every success in meeting his obligations. She enclosed the gift he had given her and suggested that he sell it to satisfy his need. So his girlfriend, and he basically got into financial difficulty. He gave his girlfriend this ring. She thinks it's an expensive ring, but it's pretty much a fake diamond. She thinks it's an expensive diamond, but it's really fake. It's like cubic zirconian. He's calling it a paste diamond, but it's more of an old school writing. So she writes him this love letter, gives the ring back so he can sell it, so he won't be in financial strain. So she enclosed the gift he had given her and suggested that he sell it to satisfy his need. The young man was sorry then that he had not giving his girlfriend a diamond of real worth. He got back at a time when he needed help most, that which he had given out an imitation instead of genuine. So basically he's using a metaphor here, and he will explain this. He's really using a metaphor in giving and receiving, is that lots of times when we're giving in a sense of kind of we're doing like a false giving. We're giving in a pretense of knowing that we're going to get something in return. So we're not really giving. We're not really giving at a pure heart. You know, you understand what I'm saying? But I don't want to give too much here because I know he really goes into this. When we speak of giving, most people have a tendency to think first of giving their money. Now this is where he talks about money now, because this is where most people think. You know, when we started this chapter, that's why I didn't give examples of money. That's why sometimes I stumble over my examples, but I want to talk about money, and I know he goes into this. When we speak of giving, most people have a tendency to think first of giving their money. Money, an object of human affection, so passionate that men will slay and steal to gain its possession, is by nature so obedient to our will that we can hold it gently in our hand or fold it fondly in our purse without feeling any resistance from its nature. With all the selfish getting ideas which man attaches to it, man has not changed its nature or its purpose. What does money get out of constantly giving itself into the hands that so eagerly grasp it? This is a question right here. I'm right here. What does money get out of constantly giving itself into hands that so eagerly grasp it? Nothing. Nothing beyond the joy of giving itself in the fulfillment of its mission. Man may do some terrible deed to obtain it. He's still talking about money here. He may pay for it. He may pay it for something detrimental to his progress. But in all these exchanges, man, not money, loses value. So he's really dissecting money here. You know, money's not the root of all evil. It's man, how man is using the money. Okay, so he's explaining it differently, but this is where he's really going into the money. It's like lots of times, you know, if we have a lack of money, or we have negative concepts or negative thoughts about money, we might say money's the root of all evil. You know, the love of money, the root of all evil. But yet, it's not money. Money has nothing to do with it. It always gets tied to that person that is using the money. So that's what he's really talking about. It's not. So basically, he's saying it's not the money that loses value. It's the man that loses value. It's the woman that loses value, because how they're using the money. Just as the sun shines on the just and the unjust alike, so money passes through the deserving and the undeserving hand to accomplish its work. Its purpose is to exchange without discrimination. Remember, the laws of the universe, the law of receiving, the law of giving and receiving. Remember, I've said this before, is the law, there is no discrimination with God. There is no discrimination with the laws of the universe. Okay, there is no discrimination. For example, the law of gravity. If every person, you know, walked off a tall building, every single person is going to fall to the ground. So there's no discrimination with the law. There's no discrimination with every laws of the universe. So that's what he's talking about here. Leaving the latter to the mind that is using it, money goes merrily on its way, losing nothing in self-value and giving value. Money came into form to fill the need for exchange, and on that purpose, it is all intent. Let our attitude toward it be what it may. Money will remain true to its nature as long as it is needed by its master. Man, if we fail, I'm going to read this one more time because I want to say something, because I just caught something he said here. Money came into form to fill the need for exchange, and on that purpose, it is all intent. Let our attitude toward it be what it may. Money will remain true to its nature as long as it is needed by its master, man. So remember here, I'm right here at the end here, this is a flip-flop. Remember, money isn't the master over you. You're the master over money. Okay? So man is its master. Okay? So lots of times we have this flip-flop in our life. Money is the master over you. But you're the master. You're the master over money. If we fail to pay full value in exchange, we fail to understand the prospering law back of the idea. Money represents the law of services. Its value is the estimation of worth placed upon it by the mind of man, while it's formed and designed to ensure the easiest exchange when we give our best in some useful service, forgetful of self, concentrating on the joy of giving instead of concentrating on the returns. We find that our purpose and the purpose of money may have blended, and we become together in righteousness and eternal good. So often I hear people say, well, I do give, and sometimes until it hurts, but I seldom see any sign of a return. And I've heard so many people say this as well. I fell in the trap of saying this over my lifetime as well. And, the same way we can twist this into, we can use money as an example, or we can use manifesting as an example. I've tried manifesting before and it doesn't work. I want my dream house, but I never got it. I want my dream car, I never got it. I want the $1 million salary, but I never got it. It's the same concept here. Okay, but he's talking about giving here and giving money, because this is what Holliwell is talking about. The more you give, the more you receive. So people's coming back and saying, I do give Holliwell. Okay, I do give Mr. Holliwell, but I'm not receiving. So what's basically going on? This is the question he's getting. So he says, so often I hear people say, well, I do give, and sometimes until it hurts, but I seldom see any sign of return. There is a right way and a wrong way to give. This is what Holliwell's explaining. There's a right way to give, and there's a wrong way to give. There is a careless and impulsive giving, and there is a careful and scientific giving. When we give to a person or a group of persons where we are retarding progress, we are wasting our substance. Where we give to one who doesn't put forth the effort to help himself, we need not expect a good return. So this is what he's talking about. And this might ruffle some feathers a little bit, the example I might use. But really what he's talking about is, let's say, I lived in California for 20 years. So in California, Los Angeles, you see a lot of homeless. So a lot of people give to homeless. I've given to homeless before, and you give money, you give cash to homeless. But yet, what Holliwell is saying is that's impulsive giving. Okay, that's careless giving, because you're helping somebody who is not helping themselves. They're using the money for drugs and alcohol, but they're not helping themselves to get out of the rut that they're in. So this is what he's saying, is that you're not going to get a good return. You're not really going to receive good, because you're basically, and he's using this term, like you're basically retarding the progress of that person. It could mean the same thing as your kids grow up and you're constantly giving them money, but they're just blowing it and wasting it. They're not responsible with it, but you're creating a crutch for them. Okay, so all the giving you're doing, that's why you're not really receiving anything, or you're not getting a good return on your giving, because you're creating a crutch in somebody else, in somebody else's life, and that person's not being responsible with it. That's what he's kind of talking about here. Listen to this. Nature does not support a parasite or a loafer. And his words would be harsh here, because remember, this is written in 1967. Nature does not support a parasite or a loafer, but she gives her energy to the ones who are struggling forward. She lets the parasite and the loafer see that she will help if they put forth the effort to help themselves. This is what he's saying. But with us, if we support a loafer and what he is in, how can we expect any good returns? Rather than the loafer becomes arrogant and demanding for more and more relief until we wonder where and when it will end. Meaning we're giving money to somebody, now I'm using homeless as an example, is because they always remain homeless. They're not helping themselves to get out of being homeless. And one of the things I want to share real quick before we go on to the purple section here as an example is, one of the things I noticed, of course I'm from the United States. I've lived in California for like 20 years. I'm from Ohio. In Ohio, you don't see a lot of homeless, but in in some of the warmer states, California, Florida, you see a lot of homeless. And I lived in California for almost 20 years. And one of the things I start seeing is that I travel a lot. I mean, I live in Thailand now, and I come back and forth and visit family. One of the things in Thailand, one of the things I started noticing about Asia is you hardly ever see a homeless person. And you would think, countries like the Philippines, countries like Thailand, Vietnam, you would think that they're a little bit more of a poverty nation. You would see tons and tons of homeless, or even more homeless you would see inside the United States. But it's actually reversed. You see way more homeless inside the United States than you do in Thailand or the Philippines. I mean, I'm just, being honest with you. Or Vietnam or Asia. You don't see a whole heck of a lot of homeless. And just because of that, this concept is that people don't take care of them. You know what I mean? You gotta get your act together. And no matter, you can live in poverty, but you still live with a roof over your head. You still have food. You're not just living on the street. And when you do see, a little bit of homeless, a tiny bit, it's really like real homeless. They really need your help. Or if someone's asking for money, it's usually, they're blind. Sometimes when I would shop at street markets, there'd be a couple people there that would, they wouldn't be asking for money, but they would set up and sit, and they would have a little bowl out because they're blind. They're either blind or they're crippled. So in that instance, it's okay because they're trying to better themselves. But most people homeless is, they're not helping themselves. It's kind of like a lifestyle choice for them. But it's just something I noticed when I actually travel the world. I don't just stay inside the United States. It's something that is unique, and I've seen even when I started going on vacations, international, is that in some of these countries you hardly see homeless people. You see way more homeless inside the United States. And it's I know you don't know if it's because of this reason or not, but it's just something that I've been observant to and seen. Now let's kind of move on to the book. The purple is an example he gives. A woman once gave her daughter when she married, and this is a wonderful example. A woman once gave her daughter when she married a home fully furnished. So here she is, the mother of her daughter. The daughter just got married, and she basically gave her a home fully furnished. Bought the home for her. I'm assuming bought the home in cash. They didn't have a mortgage. And it was fully furnished. They didn't have to buy any furniture for it. And set the son-in-law in a good business. So even set her son-in-law up in a good business. Gave the son-in-law a job. The business from year to year was always needing more funds to carry it over. And she continued giving her money to him until it was almost exhausted. So here the mother was. She pretty much bought a house for her daughter, furnished the whole house, then set the her son-in-law, gave her son-in-law a business that he could run the business, not a job, a business, so he could run the business. But the son-in-law was basically bankrupting the business. He wasn't responsible with the business. It doesn't say what the son-in-law was doing with the money, of course, but was basically in the hole every single year. And now the mother has to come to the rescue every single year and give money. That's basically what was going on. And she did this until all her money was exhausted. When she had gotten down to a small income and living in one room, she wanted to know why she was not blessed for all her generosity. So she came to Holliwell. She's telling Holliwell this story, and she basically wants to know why isn't God, or why isn't the universe blessing me? Because I'm giving, I'm giving all this money. I'm helping my daughter. I'm helping my brother-in-law. I'm giving all this money. Why ain't I receiving good in my life? This is what she's saying, and this is where a lot of us are at too. She gave as she helped until she had no more to give, and then she was unwelcomed in their home and invited to leave. Her mistake was in her judgment. So I'm going to reread some of this because since I kind of skipped around, it doesn't really make sense. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'll go back up here. When she has gotten down to a small income and living in one room, she wanted to know why she was not blessed for her generosity. She gave she gave as she thought best, but it paid in losses and bitter words. Then her situation even got worse. The son-in-law, or her son-in-law, demanded more help until she had no more to give. Then she was unwelcomed in their home and invited to leave. So here she was, she bought them a house, she furnished it, she set up a business for her son-in-law. Her son-in-law is wasting all the money. She's giving all the money to this business to basically help to keep the business afloat. She must be living in the house in one room. Then when the son-in-law came to her, then she's like, I'm sorry, I have no more to give. I gave you everything. Then they kicked her out of the house. That's basically what they did. I'm down here, right here. She was at much as fault as the dependent son. So basically she's asking, her mistake was in her judgment. Her mistake was keep on helping, keep on giving money. That's her mistake. Same way when we look above the law of giving and receiving. If we're holding someone back, we're creating a crutch for them. All of our giving isn't helping them grow and prosper. It's basically bringing their life down. That's basically what she's doing. She thinks she's helping, but she's really not. So Holliwell says she was as much at fault as the dependent son, for she was part of the cause of his failure. I directed her to stay away from the young couple and let them sink or swim by themselves. I was sure they would find themselves. She followed my advice, and within a year the young man had put his business on a paying basis. For the first time, it was operating at a profit. The home life was restored to a normal state, and all were happier because their efforts were being directed into the right channels. The young man was proud of his efforts that enabled him to make good of his own merit. A practical interpretation of the law is when you see someone making an effort to help himself, that is a time to assist him. That is a time to give. But do not give of your substance to the one that will not help himself, or at least try. The latter type will not only misuse your gift, but will abuse you if and when you cease giving. So this is all he's saying, is that in order to give, you're helping somebody. You help people that you can see that's helping themselves. They want to get out of that rut. They want a better life. So you're helping them, but they want to get out of it as well. Rather than give to somebody that you know and you knowingly isn't helping themselves. Jesus gave his substance always where it would do the most good. He fed the multitude because they were seeking good, not because they were begging food. Nowhere do we find him giving as much as a thought to anyone except those who desire to improve and grow. Now listen to this. Now he's taking this from the Bible, he's taking this from the New Testament, and he says about Jesus that nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in the New Testament do we find him, Jesus, giving as much as a thought to anyone except those who desire to improve and grow. He cautioned others about unwise giving. Do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and rend you. He meant, this is the verse I just read, because it's coming from the Old Testament, not the New Testament, but probably the New King James Version, so it's kind of written very weird. So this is what Jesus says. Do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and rend you. What he meant simply, do not give your substance to anyone who cannot appreciate it or improve with it. It is as foolish as giving a child a loaded gun and expecting him to realize the danger as you do. Sooner or later, the child, through lack of appreciation, will either hurt someone or get hurt. To the sorrow of all concerned, you cannot build something on nothing and expect something in return. If in your giving there is no principle of good in some measure, no matter how small, to add to, then you are casting your pearls away. You are wasting your substance. Many have found tithing a successful form of giving, but the questioning the mind wonders. Now he's moving into tithing. Now he's moving in. He's talked about money, and he's talked lengthy about giving and receiving. Now he's going into tithing. So he's in my opinion, he's hitting probably the most debatable things on giving that we can really discuss and go forth on. And even like within the church, tithing, even in the church with tithing or any other religion that tithes, where you're tithing, you're giving money to the church. I mean, a lot of people have an issue with it. A lot of people have an issue with how much you give. So this is what he says about tithing. Many have found tithing a successful form of giving, but the questioning mind wonders, why would tithing be more potent than any other form of giving? It is more potent because you touch the law of giving and receiving in a definite, orderly, and systematic way of giving. So listen to this. I'll read it one more time. Okay, this is why tithing is so important. Okay, it's not so much the money. Okay, but this is what he's saying. Why would tithing be more potent than any other form of giving? It is more potent because you touch the law of giving and receiving in a definite, orderly, or a systematic way of giving. You establish a methodical plan of giving which creates a steady flow of reciprocal good to be received. When one's method of giving is sporadic or occasional, one's reception of good is irregular and uncertain. Listen to this. Basically what he's saying with tithing, and if you set up and you go to church every week, let's say you go to church on every Sunday, and every Sunday you tithe. So that's basically setting up a definite, orderly, and systematic way of giving. You're doing it every single week in a systematic, orderly way. Okay? So you're giving every single week. So basically what he's saying is, when one's method of giving is sporadic or occasional, you just give whenever, it's sporadic, it's not every week, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once every couple months, it's sporadic or occasional. One reception of good, your good that comes to you is also going to be irregular and uncertain, rather than the ones who basically give every week. Scientists analyze it. So right now, I'm right here. Scientists analyze it. They say that tithing gives man a self-reliance, a confidence which enables him to build upon a positive mental attitude which attracts success. Others say that a tither already has considerable confidence to take the chance to spend his money that way. This makes him a positive type and attracts only positive and goodly conditions. Then there are others. Now he's changing. Then there are others who take a spiritual view toward tithing and assume that God is their partner and they are paying only 1/10 of their receipts as his share. Then too, now he's giving different opinions here. Then too, some make the mistake in tithing when they give for selfish gain and when they make a bargain of it. Remember, it is not the money you give, it is the idea back of giving that is vital. So this is what he means, like when people, he's using old terminology a little bit. Then too, some make the mistake in tithing. So the mistake in tithing, the mistake of giving money, this is where most people make a mistake of tithing or even giving money, is they give for selfish gain or when they make a bargain for it. Meaning that, I'm giving, like if I help you out and I give you money, well, I'm secretly thinking to myself that, oh, you're going to give it back to me, or you're going to help me, or you're going to give something to me in another way. So that's kind of a bargain. I'm kind of doing it for selfish gain. I'm kind of trying to play the law a little bit. But then Holliwell says, remember, it is not the money you give. It is the idea back of the giving that is so vital. It's your idea, it's your secret thoughts, the reason why you're really giving, that's really vital, that's really important in this. It's not the money that you give, it's not the total, the amount you give. Money has nothing to do with it. It's what you're thinking, your secret thoughts behind what you're giving. That's vital. That's the most important. Because remember, God, the universe, universal law, okay, you can fool other people. This is what I say all the time. You can fool other people, but you can't fool God. You can fool other people, but the secret you can't fool the universe. You can't fool God. It knows the secret you, your secret thoughts, why you're really doing what you're doing. Remember, it's not the money you give. is the idea back of the giving that is so vital. If you give money and the idea is wholly one for bargaining, meaning you want something in return, your mind is not free. Therefore, your results cannot be free and full-flowing. Tithing, no matter what one may think about it, if one thinks at all, has a tendency to bring man into line with the law of giving, and his results will be in proportion to the honesty, sincerity, and spirit of the gift. So it's really, now he's talking about tithing here, but you can say tithing or giving money is that it's how the law is really going to work for you. The law of giving is going to work for you. It's really you and your secret thoughts. You know, how pure are your thoughts behind your giving and honesty. Now, how honest are your thoughts? How sincere are you? Jesus praised and blessed the widow who gave her mite into the church coffer, but criticized the rich man offering his bags of gold. I'll say this more time. This is an example a little bit. Jesus praised and blessed the widow who gave her all. So the widow is in poverty. She doesn't have very much money, but he praised her and blessed her who gave her all, her mite, into the church coffer. But Jesus criticized the rich man offering his bags of gold. Why do you suppose he took exception in this case to praise the lowly gift of the widow? He knew the law of giving was in action. He was the spirit of her gift that prompted his blessing. When John D. Rockefeller was a poor boy, he was able to apply the law early in his life. When he earned his first money, he kept a record of his givings and his receivings, and he kept a ledger all through his life. It is known that he gave away more than $500 million. Possibly, we can judge why he received so much. So in this example up here, I'll go back up here. An example he gave about Jesus, how he blessed the widow. He blessed the widow that didn't have very much, but she gave everything to the church. But yet he criticized the rich man just bringing bags of gold, because he's going back to the other example is your deep-rooted beliefs. You know, what are you really thinking? Are your beliefs pure? Are you giving with a pure heart? And you're giving with honesty and sincerity. So he saw that more in the woman, the widow, than he did the rich man that could easily just give bags of gold. But after we give, that is not all we must do. Now there's a next step to it. He's been talking a lot about giving here, but after we give, that is not all we must do. Our next step is to prepare to receive the response or results of our giving, and to receive, as the law states, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Now he's going after the verse in the beginning of this chapter. Now he's going after the second part of the verse. So I'll read it one more time. But after we give, that is not all we must do. Our next step is to prepare to receive the response or results of our giving, and to receive, as the law states, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. This is the most interesting part, because our preparation, our active faith, instead of rocking and waiting, we are preparing and working. Listen to this. We are preparing and working. We're in our life, we're preparing and working towards to receive the good into our lives. This in turn enlarges our view. It stimulates our interest. It disperses our doubt and fear, and energizes our power of reception. This was clearly illustrated by Elijah the prophet. He gives another example from the Bible. Elijah the prophet. When the three kings came to him and asked him to pray for them that they would be victorious in battle, and that they might have rain to supply their soldiers and animals. The rain because they're thirsty. They're in the desert right now. Okay, they're dehydrated. Elijah told the kings to go back to their camps and prepare for the morrow. Prepare to receive the water they asked for by digging ditches. Okay, now listen to this. And Holliwell says this. Now, if you have ever been on the desert, you will know that it was Now, if you've ever been on a desert, you would know that it was a most foolish idea to dig ditches in the sand and expect rainfall. So this is where the battle is taking place. They're in the middle of a flipping desert. Elijah tells them to, "I'll replenish all your soldiers and animals with water, but go back and dig ditches and prepare for the rain to come." They're in the middle of the desert, okay? You have to kind of put your mind into this. They prepared for the rain by digging the ditches, and clouds gathered, and rain fell, and the ditches were filled. The men and their beasts were satisfied. Their thirst was quenched, and going into battle strengthened. They were victorious. Elijah, knowingly the law, instructed them to prepare and made the easy way for them to receive. Now, when I was reading this, a lot of you out there follow Never Goddard. Now, this floats kind of right, and he's explaining it differently, but it goes right for Never Goddard techniques, Never Goddard teachings, where you set an intention, you go inside your imagination, and you create an imaginal scene on what you want, what your intention is, and you do this right before sleep, and you drift off to sleep. Now, the next phase to this is actually what are you doing in present moment? What are you doing in your 3D world? Now, what you're doing in your 3D world is living in the end, is dwelling in the end. And when you live in the end, you dwell in the end, this goes along with this example of your preparation to receive. Okay, what's your preparation to receive? The law of assumption. When you go inside your imagination, if you can see it inside your imagination, it's already in your 4D world. You just can't see it yet. It's not in your 3D world yet. So what you see in your imagination can come to you. If you can see it, you can have it. It can come to you 100%. But you got to prepare for it. Okay, you got to prepare to receive it. So how you do that in like a Never Goddard training is you live in the end. What's living in the end? Is you act as if. If you want your dream house, okay, is you have a house right now, okay, when I walk around my house, I walk around as if I'm in my dream house already. I already have it. Okay, if I want to be a millionaire and I want $15 million in my bank account right now, well, I already have it. So how would I be acting and behaving if I already had that money? Because I already have it inside my imagination. So you act as if you already have it. The same way as your dream car, your dream vacations. So that's how everything starts connecting together. The key to the law then is we are continually drawing into life what we give and expect. Listen to this. This is why it's in green. It's important. The key to the law then is we are continually drawing into life what we give and expect. Whether we attract good or bad. Remember, it's on the same line. So no matter what you expect good is going to come to you. You expect bad is going to come to you. So no matter if it's good or bad, it goes on what you expect. It is governed by the same principle. You have probably made the remark, "Oh yes, it is just as I expected," and especially when some unpleasant condition or circumstance arose. You invited the condition just because you gave out the thought of expecting it. You can also expect good to appear on the same principle, and you can help it to come to pass by the method of your preparation. Many failures and demonstrations are because we do not force our expectations to keep a pace with our desires. Very often we desire one thing and expect in our hearts another, which creates confusion. And in his remark up here, is he gives an example. We've all experienced this, okay, sometime in our life where we hear someone say, "Oh, I expect this to happen," and it's always like a negative circumstance, like, "Oh, I knew this was going to happen. I expected this to happen. It always happens this way." But they're focusing on the negative, okay? And now this is a cycle of karma. If you keep on having negative things keep on happening to you, you're really on that cycle of karma. You're on that cycle. The same thing keeps on happening. That's a cycle of karma. But we can switch it. We can easily switch it, because this is what Holliwell is saying, is that the law works. You're on the same plane of the law. Okay, you're just expecting bad to happen, but what if you expect good to happen? If you really expect good to happen, by law, it has to happen to you. The master said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. When a mind is confused, there is no cooperation, nor is there united force to attract the strength it requires. Positive mental radiations will drive away all clouds of doubt and fear with confident expectation that all things will work out. All things will work all right. You operate a law that can and will put matters right. There is a power within, greater by far than any difficulty that you can ever meet. That power will never fail to see you through. So he's also saying that power, when he says that power within you, abundance is within you. Abundance is your birthright. God is inside you. Heaven is within you. So the power is within you. And that power is greater by far than any difficulty that you can ever meet. Any difficulty that will come by you. That power within you is far greater than any negative circumstance that comes into your life. And that power will never fail to see you through it. You may ask, can I desire things not ready for me to have? Can I ask too much of the law? Does the law withhold things from me which are not for my good? So this is a great question. This is why this chapter is so powerful, because he really goes on. Basically, all the misconceptions that people think are in this chapter. All these great questions that people ask are in this chapter, and it was written so long ago. And this is a great question even in manifesting, is can I desire things not ready for me to have? Okay. Can I ask too much of the law? Can I ask for too much money? Can I ask for millions of dollars? Can I ask to be a multimillionaire? And this is what Holliwell says. True desire represents the urge of life, seeking a full expression, and is kept alive by continuous expectation of its fulfillment. It brings to us ways and means for its manifestations. The principle explains, no desire is felt until the supply is ready to appear. So listen, no desire is felt until the supply is ready to appear. And you can take this a step further. I'm right here. I gotta do this because so I can know where I'm at. But I love this. No desire is felt until the supply is ready to appear. What this means is, even if you follow manifestation, you follow Never Goddard again, you follow the imagination techniques. If you can, that's why I say, if you can see it inside your imagination, you can have it in real life. You can have it in your 3D world. And this is what Holliwell is saying. Okay, but he's saying it in a different way. No desire is felt. Okay, what he means by this, okay, you feel that you want this dream house. You feel that you want $1 million salary. You feel you want this dream car. You go inside your imagination. You're feeling the emotion. This is what he's talking about. No desire is felt. Okay, you feel the emotion of having something until the supply is ready to appear. Meaning, like, you're not going to have that desire. You're not going to be able to see it. This is what he's saying. You're not going to be able to see it in your imagination if you can't have it. If you can see it, you can have it. That's what he's saying. I'm trying to confuse myself here. No mind can be conscious of a need or of a desire unless the possibility of its fulfillment exists. Listen to that. No mind can be conscious of a need. And think about this as your imagination too. No mind, no imagination can be conscious of a need or of a desire unless the possibility of its fulfillment exists. Now, if you can see your dream car, you can have your dream car. That's what he's saying here. Your prayer, your desire, your inner urge are like a magnet, and the stronger they are, the stronger the power of your magnet, and the greater its attraction. You cannot ask too much of the law. Listen to this. You cannot ask too much of the law, for it is unlimited, and the supply is inexhaustible. Remember, I believe it was chapter 3, the law of supply, which the law of supply means the law of abundance. The law of supply is all around us. Abundance is all around us. Okay? Abundance is unlimited. Abundance is inexhaustible. That's what he's saying. You can get only what you can conceive. Okay? What this means is, I'm right here. You can get only what you conceive. You can only get what you believe. That's what he's really saying. What you can understand. You can only get only the equivalent to what you give. Okay, now he's saying you only can get to the equivalent of what you give. The law does not withhold any more than mathematics withholds its numbers. You may receive some things that appear not good, but yet good may come through them, like mistakes in mathematics. Whereas you make many mistakes. The mistakes enable you, by their correction, to better know the law. After you have made one or several corrections, you will never again repeat the same mistakes, so that way the law has served you well and supplied you with greater knowledge. And I do like that when he's talking about mistakes here. Okay, this is kind of reminding me of manifesting techniques, why things are not working, why things don't work for people, and this is the thing. Most of the time, people are just they don't hang in there long enough. Okay, they're not doing these exercises long enough. They're just, that's pretty much what it is. You have to understand the mind is a muscle. Okay, the greatest metaphor is, let's say you're out of shape, and if you go to the gym, well, if you work out for a week, well, we all can agree you're not going to be in shape in 1 week. Okay, even if you work out for a month, we all can agree you're not going to be in shape in 1 month. Or you're physically not going to look like you've been going to the gym in 1 month. Okay, you might start feeling a little bit better. You might start feeling like you can make it through workouts. So you are getting some results, but as far as appearance goes, you're not going to look like you've been going to the gym. And it might take you maybe 3 months to start getting some the kind of physical form of you've been working out. But it might not be the shape that you really want to be in. You're going to be far better along in 3 months than you were day 0, but there's still work. And this is a manifesting. Most of us, we're not doing these manifesting techniques like we should. We're not creating a lifestyle around it. So we're not built. The mind's a muscle. So we're not building our mental muscle here. And this is why when he brings up mistakes, we're going to make mistakes in manifesting. But if we stay consistent, persistent with it, those mistakes that we make, that just helps us learn how to work the law better, how to work the manifesting technique better. We get better at it. And the way we get better at it is we start believing to our core more that it works. The Lord loves a cheerful giver. The law serves a free and a willing giver. Wherever you give it with a free and willing spirit. Give it out with no obligations or dictations attached to it. Then it will come back to you unburdened with obligations or restrictions of any form. So this is what he's talking about. When you give, even if you pay your bills, when you give free. You're a willing giver. And you're giving it with no obligations. There's no secret obligations behind it. There's no secret, in those deep secret thoughts that you're thinking, oh, they're going to help me later, or they're going to give me this. Okay, you're a willful giver. You're giving for free. And when you receive, when he's saying everything's reciprocal. Okay, when you receive, you're going to receive back to you gifts unburdened with obligations or restrictions of any form. He who gives much receives much. Listen to this. He who gives much receives much. To give your best is to receive the best in ratio of the degree of giving. The reason why so many people receive little is because they give out so little. Listen to that. The reason why many people receive little is because they give out so little. They are poverty stricken because they refuse to give. Listen to this. Why are people really stuck in poverty? Now, there's many reasons, because you have generational poverty, but this could be one of the reasons. They are poverty stricken because they refuse to give. Whatever the nature of your possessions, give, and give abundantly. Okay, so what he's saying here, whatever the nature of your possessions, no matter if you're rich, you're poor, you're middle class, give and give abundantly. You are to give of your life, interest, energy, thought, ability, love, appreciation, and helpfulness. In giving of your life, thought, and love, and doing gladly and well whatever you may be called upon to do, you express your best. And the more you give, the more you receive. This does not mean that you are to give to the selfish and thoughtless. Now he's going back and tying it in. It doesn't mean that we become irresponsible with giving, but to so order your life as to make a full and proper use of your energies, faculties, and talents in useful living. If today your abilities are small and your powers insignificant, begin now to make a more thorough use of them, and they will grow. So he's saying begin now, and it will slowly grow. Recall the story of the master and his servants. So he's talking about Jesus here. Recall the story of the master and his servants, to whom he gave each a talent, some 2, some 3, and others more, from whom he expected a harvest according to their respective endowments. There was greater joy in heaven over him who had but 1 talent and used it well than over him who had many talents but failed to employ them in useful service. Hence the servant with 1 talent took the higher place. In other words, the individual who makes full use of what he has shall be blessed with more and more. For in what measure ye might, ye shall. Now this is a verse from the Bible. I'm stumbling over it all. Let me slow down here. I'll highlight it for you. And what measure you might, it shall be measured unto thee again. That is the path of increase. That is a secret of the law of receiving. If the business world accepts the giving of service as a basis of success and progress, can we not accept the same truth in our business of living life? This is not a religious plea. This is just good logic or plain common sense. For if the law works in one department, it surely will work in every department wherever we choose to apply it. Whatever you desire in the way of health, success, happiness, riches, or power, start toward it. Start it on its way by this procedure. The law works. The results are sure because a natural principle is involved. You may proceed without doubt or fear to desire and to expect all good you can realize, use, and enjoy. When the mind of man becomes unselfish to the point of yielding to the law, man has been born anew. For his attitude toward the law, himself, and his fellow men has changed, and his affairs take on the character of the newness of thought. The quote is giving, and this is the poem, not a quote, I apologize. Giving. To get he had tried, yet his store was still meager. To a wise man he cried, in a voice keen and eager, "Pray tell me how I may successfully live." And the wise man replied, "To get, you must give. As to giving," he said, "well, I have to give. I've scarce enough bread, and of course one must live, but I would partake a life's bountiful store." Came the wise man's response, "Then you must give more." The lesson he learned to get was forgotten. Toward mankind he turned with a love new begotten. As he gave of himself in unselfish living, then joy crowned his days, for he grew rich in giving. By Arthur William Bear. But other than that, my friends, I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully you got a lot of stuff out of chapter 5, the law of receiving. And remember, giving and receiving, it's really giving with a very unselfish heart and having no premeditation thoughts behind it. And in order to give, the more you give, the more you receive. But remember, you're giving in an orderly way, meaning that when you're if it's going to handicap somebody, okay, it's going to bring somebody down, you constantly giving, but they're not bettering themselves. That's where receiving and giving, you're giving in the wrong way, rather than, as you see people helping themselves, that's way more you kind of give and help. And I know this sounds harsh, but lots of times it cripples the person, and the person actually becomes worse and worse and worse because you're there always kind of helping. But other than that, my friends, comment below, let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you in the next chapter.